Whistleblowing isn't for the faint-hearted. But Brendan Lyon did it anyway.
The reality is they did things that were egregiously wrong.
He paid the ultimate price, losing his job as a partner at global accounting giant KPMG.
Most particularly, they acted egregiously against the interest of the taxpayer while serving the taxpayer and happily billing away.
But he isn't going down quietly.
The Big Four sit in every boardroom and cabinet across Australia but face no oversight and operate beyond the law.
KPMG, PwC, EY, Deloitte. The Big Four started as old world accountancy firms, establishing themselves as the sentinels of commerce by auditing the financial accounts of powerful multinational corporations and the rich and famous. It created an aura of credibility and trust. From there, they started advising multinational clients how to minimise tax and governments how to collect more. They advise corporations on strategy.
How can your bold vision be transformed into long-term value?
Governments on policy.
Today, I'm at Parliament House.
And set themselves up as so-called independent experts when things went wrong. With staggering reach, they became invincible. Or so they thought. Until recently, the Big Four managed to avoid serious scrutiny. Tonight, we reveal the billions of dollars state and federal governments are spending on them, and we ask who is holding them to account.
I really do see these consultants as an infestation.
They now consider themselves the power with a government beneath them.
They trade on conflicts. I mean, how can you be advising two sides of everything?
Brendan Lyon joined KPMG as a partner in 2018 after a decade as head of the powerful Infrastructure Partnerships Australia lobby group.
Going in, I thought being a partner would be something very respectable and respected. I guess I thought of accounting firms as being very rigid and very proper places.
In 2021, he was dumped from KPMG when he refused to change a report that concluded a rail corporation set up by the New South Wales government to artificially inflate the state budget by billions of dollars didn't stack up.
I was being told every single day that either my work had to change or not be delivered at all. Basically gaslit, ostracised, down-talked, humiliated in front of external stakeholders and clients. It was a full court press.
He would later be vindicated by the New South Wales Auditor General, who refused to sign off on the state's accounts until they were amended.
At KPMG, we know insights reveal new opportunities.
Behind the slick marketing, Lyon says KPMG fostered a high-octane sales culture that crushed anyone who got in the way.
It's a bit like a glee club. Everyone wants to talk about sales and outcomes. No one ever wants to talk about the problems because that's going to get in the way of more sales.
They believe they are the power pack for Australia, that they sit above and beyond the law.
Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill has spent years trying to hold power to account. Now she's taking on the high priests of capitalism, the Big Four, driving 3 of 4 parliamentary inquiries. She exposed the PwC tax scandal in May, where partners were using confidential government information to help clients such as Uber and Facebook sidestep tax laws.
I'm still somewhat shocked by the scale of what they've attempted to do and what they were caught doing. And PwC's monetising of the actual information that belonged to the Australian people, to you and I, is shameful and international at scale.
A lot of O'Neill's information is coming from insiders, thankful someone is finally ready to take them on.
The rorts and sleazy approach that firm used to get and maintain government business is reprehensible.
Win work at any cost and worry about how you deliver later.
I couldn't stand against them. They are just too big and powerful.
I resigned when I couldn't align my personal values.
The Australian public need to know.
Ethical standards
Their
and
tax
integrity
dollars
simply
are ending
not
up as huge
I have seen so much waste.
Their internal culture is unsafe and highly toxic.
Every company has whistleblowers who've been trying to blow the whistle inside, who've been trying to blow the whistle with regulators and not getting a hearing.
The messages vary, but the common theme is the Big Four have built a business that thrives on conflicts of interest. We asked Brendan Lyon to explain how the model works from the inside.
Australia relies on the Big Four to be the independent, trusted auditors for government and for companies. The reality is they are dependent on consulting cash, and that erodes their independence. This is a fundamental conflict of interest. How is it that you can be an auditor charged with holding management to account when 60, 70 or 80% of your cash flow is coming directly from management consulting services? How is it that you can sit in the room while tax laws are made and simultaneously you can be selling workarounds to foreign companies?
The conflicts have raised concerns about the growing influence of the Big Four inside government departments.
These companies that once traded just in audit have spread so far across society and into government. Their tentacles are everywhere. They now consider themselves the power with a government beneath them, a government that they control and have power over. And I'm very concerned about the entire sector.
Putting an accurate figure on just how much public money is spent on consulting firms is impossible. Commonwealth corporate entities only need to disclose contracts worth more than $400,000, and publicly available data from the states is inconsistent. 730 can reveal that over the past decade, state and federal governments have spent at least $10 billion on the Big Four firms. But it's likely to be far more. A forensic look at government contracts shows the Department of Defence spent almost $4 billion of taxpayer money with the Big Four in the last 10 years. And that's just what we know of.
What have we got for $3.7 billion? How many secrets have we handed over in the course of these contracts? And how much have we lost? How effective has the Big Four's plan been to effectively de-skill the public sector and make them essential in the defence space? I think when you line those questions up one after another, you can see what a threat this is to integrity in the space.
The Centre for Public Integrity's Catherine Williams has also been trawling through government data and identified so-called management advisory services as the most opaque of all.
It's very difficult to understand with these contracts precisely what is being purchased. The descriptions are often unintelligible.
They calculated a staggering 1,276% increase over the past decade, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's just the Big Four.
We are talking about vast sums of taxpayer money. And we need to be able to be certain, given that that taxpayer money isn't infinite, that it's being put to the best possible use. And at the moment, we're simply not able to be confident that that is the case. We see this as a use of public money that has contributed to the hollowing of the public service. The public service is, of course, one of the key pillars of the Westminster democracy that exists in this country.
So where are we at with that? In Sydney, New South Wales Greens MP Abigail Boyd became so troubled by the murky world of consulting and its relationship with government that she called an inquiry, which kicked off last month.
I really do see these consultants as an infestation. The fact that they are sitting in our departments on secondment, that they are sitting on government boards, that they are going from senior levels in consultant firms and then into, senior executive positions in government.
According to eTender, in New South Wales, government departments spent $504 million on the Big Four since 2018, but the figure is far more. eTender only publishes contracts over $150,000 and it removes contracts once they're complete.
What we have heard so far in our inquiry is that the system by which we are recording how much we're spending on consultants is deeply flawed. We're employing people from the big consultants almost as if they were government employees, and we're not declaring that as consultants' expenditure. We need to know exactly how much is being spent, and the New South Wales government needs to tell us.
Boyd says she's disturbed by an increasing reliance on consultants to rewrite business plans for departments.
We have people who are dying because we don't have enough paramedics on the ground. New South Wales Ambulance is telling us what they need, and in order to get the government to listen, in order to get Treasury to listen, they had to pay a consultant huge amounts of money in order to, rubber stamp that business case. You can't even scratch yourself in the New South Wales bureaucracy without asking a consultant first. If you want anything done, and that is a huge waste of public money to tell us things we already know.
Why do you think government departments increasingly are relying on the Big Four?
Look, I think it's probably two factors. I think one is that there's been an ongoing loss of courage and capability in the public service. And the other thing that the Big Four and major global consultants provide is a veneer of credibility for really bad public policy decisions and a degree of defensibility for the bureaucrats who must implement it. I think it really, it's really metastasised from bringing in experts to provide independent thought about how to meet outcomes, and more resembles a sewage treatment plant when you're brought in to make something noisome appear better than it is.
We asked each of the Big Four to sit down for an interview. They declined. KPMG said in relation to the Brendan Lyon matter, mistakes were made. PwC said in a statement it was, quote, taking steps to enhance our governance, culture and accountability and to rebuild trust. Deloitte says it has rigorous protocols in place to mitigate conflicts of interest. The Department of Defence did not respond to our questions. Behind the neon signs that adorn the city skies, the Big Four have a structure as opaque and mysterious as some of the contracts they write.
There's no law, it's the Wild West. They're not under the Corporations Act. They have some duties in their roles as auditors, some duties in their roles as tax advisors, but beyond that they are left purely to their own devices. In effect, they've got a guaranteed model where they can do as they please without being held to account, and they don't even have to pay corporate tax.
Who audits them?
No one audits them, they're not audited.
Who watches them?
So it's interesting because ASIC say that it's not ASIC. They say that it's Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand. Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand say that it's only partially them and that there's other regulators, including those in the US. It looks to me like under the current microscope, everybody is saying it's them or it's only partially me. And again, it shows that they're operating in a grey area beyond the law without active regulation, and where there's no real consequence for any individual bad act. You just make sure that the caravan keeps rolling.
The Big Four built their reputation as auditors, but even that slipped. The corporate regulator checked the quality of some of their audit work and found glaring failures.
When we lose sight of the fundamental role of audit, we're at real risk of undoing what needs to happen to make sure the market is safe and secure. Every decision that's being made about the investment of your money relies on the stamp of approval, if you want, the truth-telling of an external auditor who says, yeah, the books in this company that you want to invest in are clean and they're telling the truth really about what's going on.
As the crisis deepens, the calls are getting louder to reform the system so it never happens again.
There's been a lot of effort to cover up these practices that have been seeing extraordinary profits given to partners who are living the high life at the expense of ordinary, hardworking, small businesses and tax-paying workers who do their bit and pay their fair share. I'm determined to make sure that the people who are supposed to be in there, keeping the whole system honest, do their job, do it honestly, do it with integrity, and that they don't set up systems to rip off their fellow Australians.